Hello everyone and welcome to this presentation of the P40 by Inibuilds. We start from the cockpit and perform some maneuvers and go to the landing. So welcome in the cockpit. We will go through each element that we can manipulate. I don't know exactly what each thing is, and the documentation given with the aircraft is pretty poor. So we'll begin with the tablet that is in front of us. You may find that it's a little ungraceful, but you can make it disappear by clicking on this knob here behind the yoke. You see that if I turn it, the tablet disappears, and then you have something that looks like a sight. So let's make it appear again. And then here you can see the different menus, so the map. If you click on the map, then you have the VFR maps of Flight Simulator, and you can zoom in and zoom out. By clicking on home, I go back to the menu. In the maintenance menu, we have the aircraft status. On the right you can find the spark plug wear, the tire wear, the hydraulic fuel and engine oil status. So you can see that I've flown, so it's used. We can replace it if necessary. I don't know exactly what happens if you go to 0. I guess you will have a failure, but I didn't check. For me, they put the cart before the horse, because they planned that you can have such failures, but if you check below, the fuse don't work, not one of them, and the hydraulic pump lever don't work neither. Here you can see the hand, but it's not for this lever, it's for the lever of the cover flaps, which is here. On the left side of the tablet you can see the aircraft, and that you have many doors that you can toggle. So for example, if I click on the cowl lower, you can see that it opens the cowl flaps. The next menu is the weather one, so in the ICAO scratchpad, if you click you see a keyboard, and here you can enter any ICAO code you want and you will have the METAR of this airfield. And there you have the METAR written for the one who don't know how to read a METAR like this. So the next menu is the timer, it's also stopwatch and timer, nothing new. And the last one, the settings. So first is the maintenance and persistence, so if you toggle it will enable or disable the damage. Below you can select the variant, so if you choose the military one you see that you have guns in the wings, and you also have the sight that is above the dashboard. And if you select the civilian you don't have this. And the radio, you see that it's off for the moment. Now we'll go for a quick cockpit tour. So here is the flap lever. Next to it the gear lever. This we can't use. This is the elevator trim, the rudder trim. Those levers we can't use them. And this is the fuel selector. So we have front, rear, fuel reserve, and then belly, which is the last position on the top left. You may wonder where are the fuel gauges. They actually are on the floor. Here you can see the rear tank gauge, and here I'll need the IR tracker. Here you can see the front gauge, so it's hard to check. If we keep going, here you have the propeller lever, the mixture lever, the power lever, the little lever here is the parking brake. Here you see the flaps position, and below the gear position with the 2 landing gear warning lights which are above. Above it, next to the tablet, here on the left you have the fuel signal in case of low fuel, and here the coolant warning signal if the coolant fluid is too high. Here you have the standard instruments, so I won't go further here except the fuel gauge for the reserve. So you see fuselage and reserve. I don't exactly know how this one works. And here I think it's for this, the fuel reserve, but I'm not sure at all, and it's not written in the documentation. And on the right panel you will find the common engine parameters and the ancestor of the HSI there. On the left lower panel you will find the battery, the generator, the fuel pump. I don't know why it's on, by the way, the starter, and all the common knobs you just have to read. On the lower right panel we find the fuses that don't work, and here, right to the pilot, we have many things but nothing we can use. The only thing you could use here is this lever, which is the cowler flaps lever, which will open the shutters for the oil cooling on the engine. So now that we've seen the cockpit, we'll perform the startup. So for the startup, we will open the throttle about 1 inch. Then we'll put the propeller lever full forward, the mixture lever full forward, open the rear tank, put the battery on, generator on, the fuel pump on. We check that the fuel pressure is in the green arc. If it's not, that means that you have forgotten to open the fuel tank. If the tank is closed, you will have the pressure at 0. On the left here, we can put the magnitudes on 1+2. Did I forget something? Don't think so. We can open the starter and start it. As you can see, the starting sequence is quite cool. We can see the smoke from the exhaust pipes, and the sound is nice too. It's too bad that it sounds so cool on the ground and like a Cessna 152 in the air. I don't know why. Here you can switch the radio on, and doing that, now if you click on the radio on the tablet, you see that we have the radio. So you have the active and standby. So if you change in the standby and click on the double arrows, it will switch to active. Here on the right side, you have the transponder, so with the different modes. Well, okay, back to home. I don't like this tablet much, so remember, I click here and it disappears. I can put the landing lights on and put some powers, well, taxi, and prepare for takeoff. So parking brake released, we can taxi. It feels like, you know, like a paper plane. It's all light. It's light on the ground, light in the air. For me, it's kind of strange for such an aircraft. It was heavy by the time. Even if it's a fighter, it's not a 21st century fighter. It's not a jet. It's supposed to be heavy. It's supposed to have a strong engine effect. Now that we're lined up, we can brake smoothly. We can extend the flaps. So there is nothing written in the documentation. So I decided to extend it half position. At least it works. So you can see here that it's half position. Everything seems okay, so I can slowly put full power. Well, not exactly full power because it will go over the engine limitation. So you see that I limit at 50 manifold pressure. And here, well, as I said, you see there is no engine effect. And even when I go to 2 wheels, it goes straight. Well, that's not normal at all for such an aircraft. Definitely not. So here we are. Around 100 knots, we can take off. And now I can retract the gear. So I will use the handle for the first time. And so you can see here on the left that the gear is up and the lights are off. I can also retract the flaps. So flaps up, and we can check here that it's actually done. So we are in the sky of Hawaii. It's a nod to the film Pearl Harbor. I think the countryside has changed a lot back that time, but since it's cool. And we'll climb a little to perform some aerobatics. We will stop the climb here. It's fair enough. So I push and trim, and we will reduce to the cruise power. So on the manifold pressure here, you will set 40. So 40 set, and now I can reduce the RPM, the propeller RPM. So with the propeller lever, I set 2600 RPM. That's the power setting. And here on the mixture lever, you can see that we have idle, auto lean, auto reach, and reach. And so we'll put the red lever on the auto reach position. Now that we are reaching the seaside, we will get ready to perform some aerobatics. So I turn along the coast. Full power, and I will dive to get some speed. So around 300 kilometers. Okay, I'll pull to perform a loop, and as you can see, it's way too easy. I do nothing. Look at the yoke. I don't even move it. Not a single inch of movement. It's just, you know, a perfect loop just by pulling and waiting. Well, we're talking about a P40. You could even not do that with a current aerobatic plane. So tell me you can do this that easily with a warbird. I don't believe it. Of course I never piloted a P40, but I did pilot, like, for example, a Captain, which is a small aerobatic aircraft, not that powerful, and it's impossible to do this. It's a small engine, and yet you have a lot of engine effect. And here, with a big engine, we should have lots of effect. I'm sure the dynamics is not good at all. And so, as I told you, it's easy to pilot, way too easy to pilot. But one thing is almost impossible to do, it's to slow down. So we'll land on the runway that is on the 11 o'clock here, that you can see. And I'm idle. I have a slightly positive rate of climb. And if you check the speedometer, you can see that I barely lose 1 mile per hour per mile per hour. And this is strange for such an aircraft. It should slow down way more quickly. I will get ready for the landing, so I will extend the gear below 175 miles per hour. That doesn't help me much slowing down. In the documentation they say that for the second notch of flaps you have to be below 140 miles per hour. It's the only information we have, and that for the final it should be at 115 miles per hour, full flaps. So I would like to extend the flaps, but I can't because I'm still at 150 miles per hour. Although I was leveled and idle. I will add some power in order to get into the final because I'm a little far for the moment. You can see the runway there. If I switch on the tablet here, if you want, you can check the status of your aircraft before landing, in case you did shit during the flight. I know that I shouldn't descend at 1000 feet per minute, but well, it won't help slowing down, that's sure. But still, it doesn't slow down anyway. It doesn't want. It's like, you know, you can go below 200 without the gear and 150 with the gear. It's crazy. Well, okay, so I'm idle. 1000 feet per minute. It's a bit high, I agree. I have the axis. The problem is that if you don't descend at 1000 feet per minute with such aircraft, you see that you don't see the runway anymore. So I extend the 2 notch of flaps to help me, but you see that it doesn't help much. It doesn't slow down. Reaching the short final, I extend the full flaps, and now you see that it helps slowing down finally. And I pilot the 115 miles per hour, which are the first white line after the 100 miles per hour. Okay, and I keep my glide on the axis until the touchdown. Now that we are idle, we can hear that the sound is cool again. Very nice idle sound. Smooth touchdown, that's cool. And then we let the aircraft slow down by itself. And once it's done, we can pull on the yoke to press the tail on the ground. Because if I brake too heavily, too strongly, it could go on the 2 wheels and hit the nose. As you can see, I braked here and it doesn't do it. Oh, there you go. You see that if I brake too strong, it raises the tail. By clicking here, I can open the canopy well, to set that it's exactly the same sound, open and closed. And now I can shut down the engine. So fuel pump off, the mixture to the pack position, and the engine shuts down. I can also put the proper backward and light off all the knobs, sorry. So generator, battery, and the aircraft is off. So to be honest, I kinda regret to have bought this aircraft. It looks good, but the dynamics are poor. It flies like a paper plane. There is no much fun piloting it. So really, I don't advise you to buy it, but you do what you want. In any case, I wish you good flights and I hope that you enjoyed the video. See you next time.